In the bustling city of Cyprus, circa 300 BC, resided Zeno, a merchant of considerable fortune. His life, seemingly blessed with prosperity, took a dramatic turn during a voyage from Phoenicia to Piraeus. A tempestuous storm, indifferent to Zeno's wealth and aspirations, swallowed his ship whole, dragging his precious cargo to the ocean's depths. In a cruel twist of fate, a man once basking in affluence found himself stripped bare. His fortune vanished in the blink of an eye. Picture yourself in Zeno's sandals. How would you grapple with the devastation of your life's labor being mercilessly washed away by the brute force of nature? What would be the correct or appropriate response? Anger? Despair? Would you succumb to the belief that life had dealt you an unfair hand? For most of us, such reactions would be understandable, even expected. But Zeno was no ordinary man. He was the progenitor of Stoicism, a philosophy that would ripple through the ages. It's a testament to the power of perspective, how a minor shift in mindset can trigger a cascade of profound and transformative changes. At the heart of Stoicism lies acceptance and indifference to external events. After immersing himself in the writings of Socrates and other philosophical luminaries, Zeno formulated and disseminated his Stoic doctrines. His central tenet: while we have limited dominion over what befalls us, we possess absolute authority over how we react to those events. It is this control, Zeno argued, that we must cultivate and wield effectively. Instead of lamenting over spilled milk, or in Zeno's case, sunken treasures, the Stoic focuses on maintaining inner equilibrium, remaining composed and detached, even amidst chaos. Today, the term Stoic often conjures images of unflappable individuals, immune to emotional extremes, untouched by fits of rage or waves of anxiety. But the original intent of Stoicism was far more nuanced. It was not merely a label for the unemotional but a comprehensive framework for perceiving, interpreting, and navigating the world. Stoicism was, and is, a way of life, and one that has endured for centuries, its principles as applicable today as they were millennia ago. It empowers us to process painful emotions arising from adverse experiences, transforming them into insights that shape our unique understanding of the world. Perspective is everything, and our individual experiences mold our perspectives. The early Stoics were not cloistered academics. They gathered, debated, and shared their philosophy in public forums. They believed Stoicism held the key to a better life for everyone, regardless of social standing, and so they eschewed secrecy, preferring to disseminate their wisdom far and wide. Consequently, Stoicism permeated all levels of society, embraced by slaves and emperors alike. Among the most notable Stoics were Epictetus, whose name literally means acquired, a nod to his past as a slave, Seneca, a renowned statesman and advisor to emperors, and Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor himself, one of the most powerful men of his time. These early Stoics walked the talk, rejecting all forms of discrimination and championing equality. They even coined the term cosmopolitan, signifying citizen of the world, a concept we now associate with diverse urban centers like New York, Toronto, or London. This spirit of unity and inclusivity was central to Stoic teachings. Although women were often excluded from philosophical pursuits in that era, the Stoics vehemently disagreed with this practice. Musonius Rufus, Epictetus' mentor, argued that both men and women possess an innate capacity for virtue and are equally drawn to noble deeds. He questioned why men should have the exclusive right to explore philosophy and strive for a well-lived life. In defiance of convention, women were welcome to study and practice Stoicism alongside men. So, what accounts for Stoicism's enduring appeal? In a world rife with unforeseen events, our emotions often cloud our judgment and impede our progress. The truth is, we don't simply feel sadness because bad things happen. Rather, sadness stems from the unexpectedness of those events. Rain, for example, is a beneficial force nourishing plants and replenishing water supplies. Yet, being caught in a downpour without an umbrella is seldom a pleasant experience. Why don't we burst into tears every time it rains? Because we have learned to expect it. Rain is an unavoidable reality. We cannot control the weather. Though it might be inconvenient, we know the rain will eventually cease, and the sun will reappear. Stoicism teaches us to adopt a similar mindset, anticipating that anything bad that can happen will happen. Envision the worst-case scenario and find contentment in knowing that it is a possibility. One of the core Stoic practices is voluntary discomfort, an exercise designed to cultivate gratitude. This might involve sleeping on the floor, taking cold showers, or subsisting on a diet of potatoes for a few days. Such exercises demonstrate that regardless of how challenging circumstances become, we can endure and even thrive if we maintain the right mindset. By willingly embracing discomfort, we fortify our mental resilience in preparation for future misfortunes. In today's hyper-consumerist society, where advertisements bombard us with the message that happiness is contingent on acquiring the latest gadgets, achieving a certain appearance, or accumulating wealth, Stoicism is more relevant than ever. We enter the world largely ignorant. We learn from our families, schools, and our observations of the world around us. However, these sources of knowledge often present conflicting perspectives. Must we internalize all this information? Doing so might lead to unrealistic expectations, ultimately leaving us disappointed and unfulfilled. This is no way to live. Instead, we should focus on self-improvement for its own sake. We should pursue activities because we find them intrinsically rewarding, without attaching external hopes or secondary motives to our actions. Such attachments invariably lead to disappointment. We then try to fill the void with external validation, perhaps by splurging on a flashy car, an opulent house, or even starting a family, often driven by societal expectations rather than genuine desire. Stoicism teaches that placing our happiness in the hands of external forces is a recipe for unhappiness. Cars break down, natural disasters obliterate cities, and divorce rates continue to climb. Even seemingly free things come at a cost, the cost of space, both physical and mental. As Seneca wrote, learning to live with less will create space in your life for the things that truly matter to you. Instead, we must ground our happiness in our intrinsic worth as human beings, independent of possessions or external achievements. We must strive to maintain a clear head, regardless of life's vicissitudes. For ultimately, we lack control over most of what happens to us, but we possess absolute control over our reactions to those events. This is the dichotomy of control, the cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. In the words of Epictetus, the chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control, and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Stoics emphasize the importance of distinguishing between what we can and cannot control. We must derive our self-worth from the things we can control, rather than those we cannot. Striving for goals is admirable, but succumbing to despair when things don't go as planned is counterproductive. Consider the example of creating YouTube videos. While less arduous than being a Roman emperor, it still presents its challenges. First, you must conceive an idea, research it thoroughly, potentially discard it, and begin anew. Then comes scripting, filming, editing, creating a thumbnail, crafting a title, and managing countless other details before finally clicking upload. Up until that point, the process is entirely within your control. However, once you upload the video, its fate rests in the hands of the YouTube algorithm. Yet, many creators judge their success based on metrics like views, subscribers, and followers, factors largely beyond their influence. Stoics would argue that success should be measured by the effort invested, not by the outcome. Trust the process. Living with less means freeing yourself from the societal constraints you have unwittingly imposed upon yourself. Imagine an employee who has worked diligently for 6 months and believes they deserve a promotion. They present their performance report to their boss, who acknowledges it but denies the promotion. The employee returns home dejected, convinced they are inadequate. They fail to consider that the boss might be in a bad mood, that another candidate might be more qualified, or that the company's financial situation might preclude promotions. They are unaware of the true reason but are nonetheless distraught. If the employee had instead focused on the quality of their performance report and continued to strive for improvement, they would likely be happier. With the right perspective, their goal would not be abandoned but simply deferred. This reframing of mindset is critical. A true Stoic does not define success by financial gain but finds contentment in living a comfortable life without the trappings of wealth. Stoicism is anchored by four cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. Wisdom is the ability to discern between what is internal and external, and to choose our response to events. As Viktor Frankl observed, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. Courage can be summarized in two words: persist and resist. Temperance, or moderation, is about achieving more with less, conveying more with fewer words. While figures like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk compete for the top spot on Forbes' list, Stoics believe that the ideal level of wealth is having what is essential and then having enough. Justice is the most paramount virtue. It dictates that we should never harm another, because we are all born to help one another, not to serve our own selfish interests. Nelson Mandela, a global icon in the fight against apartheid, embodied this virtue. He was sentenced to life imprisonment for his activism and spent 27 years behind bars. Upon his release, he was elected president of South Africa. Many expected him to seek retribution against those responsible for apartheid and his imprisonment. However, Mandela, deeply influenced by the writings of Marcus Aurelius, chose a different path. Throughout his time in prison, he had embraced Stoic principles which guided his actions. Instead of demanding vengeance, Mandela urged his people to pursue reconciliation and rebuild their nation. He emphasized that the past was beyond their control and that their only recourse was to forge a better future together. This is the essence of the Stoic way. Stoicism has also found its way into modern medicine, forming the basis of therapies like rational emotive behavioral therapy, REBT, and logotherapy. REBT assists patients in identifying negative thought patterns that contribute to emotional and behavioral problems. It encourages them to challenge the logic behind these thoughts, and when they realize that many are unfounded, they can replace them with more constructive and healthy beliefs. Logotherapy, on the other hand, is rooted in the Stoic principle that humans are driven by a sense of purpose. Even in the bleakest of circumstances, we can find meaning and happiness by discovering our purpose. Of course, this is often easier said than done. It's a process that requires rewiring our thought patterns. We must discard old habits and embrace new ones. To resolve our struggles with happiness, we must cultivate self-worth. By redefining our values based on the things we can control, we can break free from our fixation on the things we cannot. Ultimately, this leads to a more fulfilling and joyful life. Stoicism helps us navigate the storms of the past and present, guiding us toward calmer and more peaceful waters. And even if our ship founders and we perish, we can find solace in knowing that we lived a good life, however brief. Because remember, everything comes to an end.